Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
Uh, let's just dive right into it. Let's no preamble here. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
Just right into games.
That's
So,
right.
so I got sick, so I've been playing a couple things.
Dang, okay.
Let's start out with the stuff that I feel like I have more to say about, which is some Castlevania stuff. Um, Over the Steam sale, I bought all three Castlevania collections. So we'll start
Oh,
with
okay.
the OG collection. So this is the collection as Castlevania 1, 2, 3, Bloodlines, Kid Dracula, and I'm not going to remember the other one or two in there. Oh, right, Belmont's Revenge, and
Is
I
this the
forget what else.
anniversary collection? Is that what it's
Yes, that
called?
sounds right.
Okay.
I keep forgetting the name. The other two are easier because they're the Game Boy Advance and the Dominus collection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so this is the anniversary collection, and Steam sale. I got them all for like $5 or $10 a piece or something like
Oh, that's
that.
not bad at all.
Um, and I knew like the anniversary collection, I wasn't going to play much, so I started like Castlevania 1 and got to like I don't know. I got past the Medusa head boss, which I think is like the third boss in there or something like that, which was very surprising since it's a game I had not played in a long time and a genre I'd also not played in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But these collections feature save states and all that. But to me, the really, really cool thing about it was they have a digital book in there that is a giant interview with I should have written her name down, but the soundtrack artist for the most of the Castlevania games.
Oh,
Um,
Yamaoka? No, that's not it.
no, yeah,
I
that's
don't
Silent
remember.
Hill. It's I don't remember her name, but it was really cool reading the interview with her because she talks about kind of get out like being in college and what hardware she was trained on, like for like electronic music and her classical music college stuff, and kind of went on to. Oh yeah, then I got hired at Konami, and it turned out they had the same device they trained me on, so that was
Oh,
great.
nice.
Uh,
Michiru Yamane.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
I was like, man, she's so good. I can't forget to
She
give
is
her a proper call out here.
she is the Symphony of the Night
Mm-hmm.
composer, but it's a pretty long interview, and it's really good, and it's just cool reading about it, and then like she talks about like she'd worked at Konami for years without realizing anyone cared at all about her music, and then eventually like had the stark reality of I guess she did some concert or something like that around Symphony of the Night or after that that was just a massive packed thing, and she was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh my gosh." uh,
That's
but
pretty fun.
uh, she seemed like a cool, positive person, and it's always awesome finding out that, especially in the '80s in Japan, that a woman was responsible for something like this.
Right. And
Um,
usually we don't get a lot of interviews from developers, kind of in general, but especially interviews from developers in Japan in the 80s, because there was a lot of that stuff was so
yeah,
secretive to
yeah.
prevent people from getting poached to other studios. So like having her still being around and still making music and having that interview is pretty incredible.
Yeah, she doesn't like explicitly say that, but she does talk about like, yeah, we didn't used to be able to be allowed to admit what we did.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, they all had to
but
use like pseudonyms and stuff. Is pretty interesting.
yeah. Um, but anyway, yeah, Castlevania 1 is surprisingly still neat. That interview's cool. They got an interview with uh, uh, uh what's his first name? Audrey Shankar, the guy who does the producer for the Netflix cartoon. Um,
Oh, I don't remember.
he used to be a YouTuber. He's a little bit different, but his interview's a little short.
Hmm.
But he's involved in the Devil May Cry show that Netflix is doing too.
Oh,
But
interesting.
he I don't know. He's a dude that absolutely loves video games. Like there's no doubt about that. He's just a little weird. Like like I enjoy him. Like I think like I would get along with him if I met him in real life. But like in interviews and things like that, like they always have him like back in the shadows when they take his picture and
Mm,
like he has a very dramatic like presentation that he likes
right.
doing. Um, but anyway, so next I started up the Game Boy Advance collection, um, and I tried to figure out online what I should start with chronologically because I thought, well, I got to get to eventually the Dominus collection, the Order of Ecclesia, and all
Right.
that stuff, because I've never played those. Um, so instead, I started with whatever the first thing on there was, which was Circle of the Moon.
Yeah, Circle of the
Um,
Moon.
so this was man, so overall, this is a really cool game, but it took me a long time to adjust to it. So I'm playing these on Steam Deck, destroying my wrists holding that thing.
Right.
Um, it's the one thing that Steam Deck's issue is that it's like 10 pounds.
Hmm.
uh, but the gosh, it took me a long time to get used to the controls. Like jump is your bottom button of the whatever the Steam Deck buttons say, like
Oh,
A or
okay.
something. Um, and your attack is your right button, and that was the one that was killing me because I really wanted
Mm-hmm.
to press the left button.
Right.
And what I should have done is recognized what I wanted to do and then remapped the button like Steam lets you do, and I
Right.
think the collection lets you do too.
I think
And
so too,
instead,
yeah.
yeah, instead I just kept going with the default buttons. So like your left button opens up a menu.
Mm.
So it's just constantly like jump and menu. Ah, crap. Okay. Um, but
Oh
it is
man.
a save state thing too. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, this game was really neat to explore. Like I had to eventually look up a walkthrough because like when you start the game, you you don't have any sort of running ability. Like you can only walk.
Right. And it's a
There's no
pretty slow walk too.
yeah. And like there's you got to find save points and after you find your first save point, it takes a long time to find your second.
Mm-hmm.
The other oddity on getting starting on this is like actually an RPG,
Yes.
like more so than I'm used to from a Castlevania game. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got to spend some time grinding enemies at certain points of the game to make sure you can take on a boss.
Right.
Um, so I didn't know any of that, and I was getting real frustrated because I was just immediately dying and couldn't figure it out, and then looked up a walkthrough and read that stuff and followed the walkthrough for a little bit and then eventually just stopped reading it and just kind of referenced the map whenever I hit a new area and I'm like, okay, where's the save point?
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, and if it was a particularly hard area, then I might use, they don't call it save state, but that feature.
Yeah.
Um, the other issue I had for a long time is I didn't think the Game Boy Advance had shoulder buttons, and granted, I could have just walked to my living room and grabbed my Game Boy Advance and looked, but I did not. So there were two buttons that I was missing using, and in particular, one of them allows you to use, like they have a card system, the
Right.
DDS system. I forget
Right.
what it stands for.
The
Um,
game defines it at some point. I don't remember.
yeah, it stands for something, but basically you have two rows of cards and they randomly drop from enemies and you just select them and it doesn't tell you what they do. You got to kind of use it and find out, but it goes all the way from like things you whip get frozen and then you can jump on them to uh you got hit and now you're going to have 4 extra seconds of invulnerability when you have this spell on, or
Mm-hmm.
you're summoning a big AoE griffin on the screen temporarily, or
Right.
um, kind of goes all over the map. But anyway, this was a really fun game to explore. It was the controls are kind of clunky, like especially by modern day standards.
Mm-hmm.
The story is almost non-existent, which is fine. I'm here to explore the castle, and it's you're like it basically starts and Camilla uh, and Dracula are hanging out. She just resurrected him. He's not at full power, and she captures your master. That's all they call him, is your master.
Right.
Um, and you and I always want to say he's your brother, but you have different last names, so I don't know. Like it's you're Eric, and then he's something.
Is this
But
the one that has Julius, or is that a different one?
don't think it's
Okay.
Julius.
I don't remember. I I like this game a whole lot. This is very much the black sheep of the um, Castlevania series, as much as like Portrait of Ruin is. Um, and this game is was sort of unfairly maligned because it was a side effect of the original GBA's dark screen. It didn't have that blacklit screen. Um, and I think this game is super cool, and I liked it a whole lot when I played through it in this collection again. I was like, yeah, man, this game is, like you said, it's clunky. Like the movement doesn't feel as smooth as a lot of the other kind of more modern Castlevania games do. Um, but it's got some cool stuff, and like it's a neat castle to explore. I like the beginning where you just get thrown down the world's largest pit at the very beginning, and you fall for what feels like a minute straight.
Yeah.
Like it's a cool game that I wish more people would have played because it's got some neat stuff in there. Like you said, like it has that card system. It has a little bit of grinding. It's more of an RPG than a lot of this stuff usually is. Like it's a cool game.
Yeah, I really liked it. I did not quite beat it because it turns out Dracula is ridiculously hard.
It's
Um,
really hard. Yeah,
like
this game's
like I got to
very
the
difficult.
yeah, like I got to Dracula. I'm like, okay, I'll do this like any other boss. And after trying a second form a few times, I finally looked up the strategy, and the strategy starts with, well, first off, make sure you have every pickup in the game.
Right.
Like, I probably do, but I'm not sure. And
Right.
well, no, I take it back. There was one pickup I could not get to because I kept confusing myself. They have this
Mm.
kind of sewer-ish area where you're opening and closing this gear that lowers a staircase and raises them, but there's like
Oh yeah.
20 staircases all the way through it, and so you're opening and closing areas all through that entire area every time you hit the lever.
That's a
Um,
really hard area too. Like
yeah,
the enemies are really tough in there too.
yeah. It man, well, and yeah, because all of them freeze you,
Mm.
and you gotta like I probably spent a long time on that game, and while trying to figure out how to get to the area, I looked at the walkthrough, and they're like, yeah, if you equip this, then they can't like it won't freeze you, it'll just knock you back. And I thought,
Oh,
oh, that's
interesting.
great.
Hmm.
And well, that was great. It's just as annoying being knocked back because everyone has like freeze attacks.
Right.
Um, but for the most part, like this is a game where I really didn't die much towards the end of the game until I got to Dracula and couldn't beat him.
Yeah.
Um, like you kind of just level up, and once you get a certain amount of gear and certain spells and things like that, and then with the addition of being able to effectively save state whenever you want via the collection. It's kind of like, okay, this is getting hairy. I'm gonna save here. Okay, yeah, I'm fine. Like,
Mm.
um, and it was a really fun map to explore, and
Yeah.
it's mostly like there's. I think that maybe midway through the game, you start encountering more than one area that you can start at once. Like, um, it's not like it doesn't do that to like an extreme, but like there are several areas where it's like, well, you can do these, and they do have like um, an arena type area that I didn't really spend much time in.
Oh, right. Right.
I don't know if I'm gonna go back and do that or not. If I go back and do that, then I'm gonna also beat Dracula, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I am because that even the first level thing of the arena requires me to be more proficient at the controls than I am.
Yeah.
The arena disables your cards too, which is also what makes it extra
Mm.
hard. And
Right.
I am very reliant on those cards.
Yeah.
But anywho, so that's as far in these collections as I got.
Mm-hmm.
It really was the perfect game. I'm probably going to try out one or both of the other GBA ones before I move to the Dominus one, even though the Dominus games are really the ones I want to play the most.
Mm.
And I thought I'd played all the GBA games, but I don't remember playing this one at all. So,
Both of the other two ones are really good. Those are I like Circle of the Moon a lot. The other two games are like outstanding 10 out of 10 Castlevania
okay,
games. Like those are I think for the majority of people those are the ones you're buying the collection for of
gotcha.
are those other two.
When I can't, I bet those other two are the ones I have in the Castlevania Game Boy Advance double pack. Um,
I think that was the double pack, yeah, because I think those were the
okay,
only the other two other than Circle of the Moon.
gotcha.
Because the
Okay.
one is the one where you're like absorbing the souls of the enemies, and the other one is, I think they go back to the card system, if I remember.
Man, I may have just forgotten all of these. I know one of them I either beat or I got to the upside down castle part and then fell off for some
Mm,
reason. But um, oh well, I don't know. I'll give it a try here in a couple days or something, or maybe
yeah.
after Game Club. We'll see. Um, so moving on, played a little bit more Dragon Age or not Origins. I wrote the wrong thing down. Veilguard. This game has a really hard time keeping my attention.
Mm,
And I don't know if it's the game or me. It's a little bit of both, I think. Like, because the game wants to immediately get to like those moments with the characters where you're just always interested in seeing what they're doing. That Mass Effect achieved like by 2 and 3, right?
mm-hmm.
But like in one, while you're curious about them, like you're not immediately going down to the ship hole or armory wherever it was in one and uh, talking to them. It's probably like mid game when you realize, oh, hey, these guys are hanging out here. I should probably listen to them. And there's not
Right.
like a lot of stuff other than dialogue. And I don't know that I don't dislike the characters in Veilguard, but I'm not in love with any of them.
Yeah, there's
And
no
listening,
like, I need to go see what Legion is doing because I went
yeah,
and did a mission, so I gotta go talk to everybody because everybody's cool.
yeah, like listening to the last episode of TVGP and hearing the Nymph talk about it, I realize I need to get one more character, which I think I'm on the verge of getting.
Mm.
So I can get the little whatever it is zombie guy.
Oh,
Um,
the like undead butler guy.
yeah,
Right.
like that sounds pretty great.
Yeah,
And I've been putting off the story mission because I was afraid it would do another like event that would lock me out of somewhere or
right,
something.
right.
But it's so weird. There are a lot of aspects about this that I think are really cool. Like I think a lot of the kind of Metroidvania aspects of the level are neat. I think like well a lot of the puzzles in the level or like I think it could use some kind of like UI love like the the map interface doesn't always explicitly tell you something there, and a lot of the time you're just kind of following the arrow like of the mission,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't realize, oh wait, I can just ignore the mission a minute and solve this puzzle over here that'll get me something.
Oh, okay.
Um, there's a lot of that stuff, and that stuff is all really fun to do, and I really enjoy it. But it's kind of few and far between, and the story isn't particularly strong. Like maybe if I
Mm.
remembered more of the Dragon Age story and world stuff, it might hit me like a little harder. Like I mean, they certainly have old characters showing up, like Isabella the pirate, and
Oh, nice.
um, Morgana, of course, makes her contractual appearance,
That's
and
right. But like, if there was ever a game that really needed at least like a 5 or 10 minute story recap of the previous games, at least to highlight kind of the big story beats or like the kind of connective tissue between those games and this game, like that, it sounds like it would have gone a really long way. Because how
yeah,
long ago did Origins come out? 2007,
yeah,
2008, something like that. So like it's been a lifetime since then. So like I need a little bit more of a refresher other than watching like going to YouTube and watching like Dragon Age Origins the movie parentheses all cutscenes smushed together. You know, like I shouldn't have
Yeah.
to I shouldn't have to go do that. Like I don't
Well,
know.
and like, gosh, I know they don't want like the baggage of dealing with everyone's old save files, but
Right.
man, just like they already had set it up on that website with Inquisition a decade ago. Um,
Yeah, like it's a little frustrating to see. I thought they came to a really great compromise with Inquisition where it's like, all right, here's how you can almost like a tabletop RPG. Like, why don't you kind of shape your world either before playing it or maybe trying to import your stuff. And if they're not trying to tell that kind of story this time, I think that's fine, but that's kind of what most people are going into Dragon Age 4 at this point. And
yeah.
if it's a different sort of game, a different sort of experience, that's fine, but maybe it needed to be a little bit more explicit from like a preview release sort of thing.
Yeah. I yeah. The whole thing's just it's just such a strange experience. Like it's
Hmm.
I have such a hard time sitting down to play it. And when I do, like a lot of the time it's, oh wait, I have story stuff to do. Never mind, I don't feel like doing that, which is incredibly weird for me. Like I'm the
Right.
story guy. I'm the gameplay over story guy, and
Right.
that is turning me off. Like it's very strange.
Yeah.
And granted, like I'm not really in love with the main character either. I just forgot his name.
Rook.
Rank? Rook.
Yeah.
Rook. Yeah. And maybe that's on me. Maybe I need to change his face around or something, or change his
Mm.
voice, which you seemingly can do at any time.
That's nice.
Yeah. But I don't know. I will get around to finishing it at some point. It just is really hard time keeping my attention.
Yeah.
But let's see. What else did I do? I played right. So we're doing Citizen Sleeper 2 for Game Club. So I decided to start replaying Citizen Sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had never like I got to the end and then decided I didn't want to pick an ending, so I never beat it.
Right.
Um, so I just started a new game with the intention on beating it, and now I'm at the end. Um, in the same situation. But I think I've picked the ending I want, but I just started the DLC. So, man, the artwork in Citizen Sleeper is so freaking cool. Like,
I love it so much.
it is such a good art style.
Yeah.
I, like, on the one hand, I don't want them to ever leave this really cool kind of, uh, I don't even know if you'd call it a visual novel, but this kind of tabletop RPG. They'll
Mm-hmm.
show you an image and a bunch of text. But on the other hand, man, I'd love to see that team get a large budget and a large team they like and make like I don't know, maybe just a small little open world type thing.
Right.
Like nothing like a Bethesda game, but like something way smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
Something that like a team of under 100 people could do, or like 30 people could do, or something.
Right.
Um, but this game is so cool.
Yeah.
The If you haven't played it or had it described to you somehow after listening to Boston for all these years, um,
Continually be like, please play this. It's on Game Pass and
yeah,
PS Plus right now. Please go play it.
it's you are uh, I mean, you're a sleeper, right? So you're a robot. So at some point, a human sold their consciousness to this company to get imprinted on this robot to do manual labor. And you have escaped, and you escaped to. Okay, I'm not gonna remember the name of
The
anything in this
Eye.
podcast. The Eye. Thank
Yep.
you.
And
The
the thing I
Eye.
like about the sleepers is there's always this undercurrent of like a rich human sold their consciousness so that you could be their backup if something happens to them or if they die or like you said they just need a little bit of elbow grease for doing something. I like that there's that. It's very much a cyberpunk thing. So this sort of like somebody in cold storage that you can spin back up if something happens to you is interesting.
Yeah, and it's neat because like everyone has slightly like different reactions to you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, luckily the eye is a big civilization of refugees, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So you do get a decent amount of sympathy, um, but it is pretty cutthroat. Like you're gonna spend most of the game losing in
Yeah.
in Citizen Sleeper. Like I'd forgotten about that part. Just constantly, like nothing's good happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna beat any of these timer like so. Right. So the game operates on a day cycle. You get a certain amount of dice each day. Your dice are your actions that you use. Um, but it'll start you up and it's like, well, okay, so you have these timers. One, your body's deteriorating because the company that makes these robot sleepers basically requires that you receive their whatever treatment it is
Mm-hmm.
every so often to maintain functionality so they don't lose control of you. Um, you have a tracker in you, so you have a bounty hunter that's going to visit you every X amount of days and beat the crap out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have food. You still have to eat, even though you're a robot person.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no money, so you don't have any money for food. Uh, on top of that, like the first person you interact with is like, yeah, I gotta, like he has a timer on some debt he has to pay off that you gotta help
Right.
him with. Um, and there's just constantly layers and layers and layers of stuff like that, which for me in my life right now was a little extra stressful because I'm already feeling that way. Like all my real life timers are going off, and I'm like, crap,
Right.
am I gonna make this one? But
One of my
uh,
favorite things about the first Citizen Sleeper, I haven't started the second one yet, um, is that I like that at some point the the game flips. Like you get enough money and you get like a home and you get enough options to make money and make the medicine that you need, and you have a good enough network that like all of those pressures start to ease, and at some point the game, like every facet of the game starts becoming easier, where it's like, of course
yeah,
I can afford 15 credits or cryo or whatever it is in the game for my food every day. No big deal. Oh, I need my medicine. I got two of those just sitting in my house. No big deal. Like, I like that as you get more um, comfortable in the eye and as you find your home there, the game gets considerably easier. And I kind of continually see a feedback from people that are like, well, the game gets too easy at some point. And to me, I think that's kind of the point of Citizen Sleeper is like, once you get your network, once you get your system, and in the game, I think most people that become your friends are actually friends. It really is about a game about community and found family and survival against odds and in the face of horrible corporations. Um, but I like that there is this kind of gameplay, this other gameplay side to the story being now you have a community. So life becomes easier because you're all in it together. I think that's one of the powerful things of Citizen Sleeper for me.
I it I hadn't really thought about that way, but it's entirely true because
Mm-hmm.
you're building relationships with these various characters, like several of whom will kind of create permanent fixtures in terms of like I can always go to work for this person who's
Right.
I'm not gonna remember any of their names, but this person's always bringing in like some project for us to
Yeah,
fix
this
that
mechanic
is
up in the like
optional.
the spindle
Yeah,
on the eye, like she always has something she's working on. You can go work there for a little bit and get 25 cryo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the bar, um,
Right. With the
like they
distillery
have,
that you build in the back.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I haven't explored all the options, but I am at the point where I have like 500 credits or something ridiculous like
Mm-hmm.
that.
An
So,
impossible amount of money. And I spent a lot of time thinking about Citizen Sleeper. I think this is like one of the more impactful games for
mm,
me overall. But I think this game is definitely a tabletop RPG, and that's what the developers themselves call it. Um, but what I really like is that the game never locks you into an ending. Like my first playthrough of this game, there's I think 5 or 6 endings overall, um, and you can do all of them in a run. And when the ending says like, "All right, do you want to do X, Y, or Z?" Like let's say that one ending might have you leave the eye, or one ending might have you do something else. You can actually just say no and say like, "No, I'm going to let you guys go, but I'm going to stay here." And for me, my ending for my first playthrough was the eye is my home. So I'm going to help all of these other people either become more comfortable or get off the eye, or get what they need. But like I've made this my home, and I have my sort of found family here, and I'm not going to leave. Like I've got a good thing going here. Um,
yeah.
so that is kind of nice, because I feel like in a lot of other RPGs, it's sort of like, well, you accidentally went down this path, and now you got to restart the game if you want to go do any of these other endings. The game's like, no, man, that's cool. Just make your own
Yeah.
choices. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that it's most like I don't know. I'm sure there's a fail state somewhere in the game. I have not found it. And I
Yeah, the the game. I have been listening to a lot of Friends at the Table, Austin Walker's real play podcast. Um, this game reminds me a lot of Austin Walker continually saying, "I'm trying to help you." Like I don't want to see you fail. Like you're rolling poorly. I'm really trying to help you. And like this game doesn't feel like an RPG from the 80s, where it's like, you didn't pick up this stick at the beginning of the game, you can't finish the game. The game really is like, okay, we had a bad day. That's fine. We still have some resources we can use. I'm trying to help you. Like let's get through this.
yeah, yeah. It's it's such a I don't know. It's such a great game.
Yeah.
Like, and it's it's usually like 15 or 20 bucks, I feel like.
Yeah.
Uh, that may not, I can't remember. I bought it on the Steam sale for like 10 bucks or something.
Hmm.
I
It's
think for
not a
use,
very long game either.
yeah. Like I'm 7 hours in and I just started the DLC and I've done a good chunk of the rest of the game.
Hmm.
And I know for a fact at least once I accidentally just left the Steam Deck on and wandered off.
Right.
Um, so like I had an hour or two there.
Right.
Um, but
And for
it,
anyone that's wondering, Citizen Sleeper did get 3 DLC packs that sort of extend the end of the story and begin the connective tissue into Citizen Sleeper 2, that they continued in the over the jump over the hedge, whatever their newsletter is. Continue the end of that into Citizen Sleeper 2. But those DLC packs are free, so you can just play those whenever you want.
yeah, like you don't even have to download anything extra. It's just
Right.
part of the game package.
Yeah.
So, and it warns you when you're about to start one too. It's like these are intended for high level in-game stuff. So there's your
Oh, interesting.
warning before you start it.
Hmm.
So I don't know. We'll find out. I just started one. Just started looking for some resources for some refugees.
Yep.
Um, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But anywho,
I'm so
and
excited
then
to start the second one, because I love this game so much, and I'm like chomping at the bit for Citizen Sleeper 2.
yeah, I bought it and installed it, and I was hedging on like, do I just start it and not actually finish what I'm doing here? But like, no, come on, it's just going to be a couple more hours, and you'll
Yeah.
probably have done everything that you want to see in here, and then you can move on to two. And I've been trying to go blackout on two, but a couple, I will not say them out loud because I know you're on blackout,
Hmm.
Boston. but enough information has reached me where I'm like, oh man, I'm wondering how this is gonna turn
Yeah,
out.
I've
If this
seen
is
the embargo lifted. I think a day or two here before we're review or recording this podcast, and I have seen some stuff about like a lot of it has been positive. Some of it's been sort of a little bit like, yeah, I don't know. But that was pretty in line with the reception of the first one, where a lot of people like you and I are just like, yep, this game was made for me. That's great. It reminds me a lot of dungeon encounters, where it's just like, yep, this is a game made for me. Sickos like me. This is great. I say that with all affection. Um, so it's interesting to see this one just be like, yep, it's another sort of you'll love it or you won't sort of experience. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
It's some of the mechanic stuff I've accidentally read on Blue Sky. It was like, oh wow, that is I'm probably going to fail at that, but I'm excited to find it.
right, right.
Um, but and then lastly, I don't have a lot to say about it, but I played a bit more Metaphor.
Okay,
Um,
I do have some to talk about because
oh,
I picked that back up.
well, good. Uh, I guess I'll be quick on mine.
Okay.
Just that I am at the end, kind of last, I think, 2 months of the game.
Mm.
I think I have two more dungeons to go and a handful of side missions. And I think I'm just going to shelve this game for a bit, but I still absolutely adore it and think it's amazing. So I
Hmm.
am excited to hear what you have to say about it, Boston.
I just finished the essentially like the demo content. So like that first
Mm,
handful of hours at the beginning of the game. Um, and I'm at the end of kind of the first proper dungeon in the game. So I was actually really impressed with um, you do like a short dungeon at the beginning. You have kind of a big story beat where you go back to Grand Trad. Is that big kind
yeah.
of main city? Um,
Yep.
and you go back for the in the intro of the game, the king gets assassinated. So you're going back to uh, complete your plot. You didn't assassinate him, but you complete your plot at his funeral. Um, and the game kind of the demo period sort of ends after that. Um, I when I picked this back up, I was at the end of the dungeon before you go back to Grand Trad, and I kept beating my head against this boss. I tried like 3 or 4 times this human boss, and it would it's like the most minor boss in the game, but it would focus on an entire row of your party members and just obliterate that entire row. And I was like, dang man, like I can't even really grind in this dungeon because the enemies are gone. Like what am I supposed to do? And I looked at a walkthrough and they're like, yeah, if he focuses on the front row, just move everyone to the back row. And I was like, oh my god, RPGs. Yep. Okay, yep. I haven't played this in way too long. Okay, sure. So blew through that boss, no problem. Once I remembered, just hit down on the D-pad and you just scooch to the other row. No big deal. Um, and I like the very next room, you run into a giant dragon, and the game makes this huge deal of like, oh my god, you can't fight a dragon. We just fought that human. Like you better sneak around. There's these two pathways. Try to avoid the enemies. Like, don't even fight them. And your party is all like hunched down animation wise. And I remember everybody saying like, this dragon is really not as hard as the game says it's going to be. You should at least just try to fight the dragon. So like, walked right up to the dragon, and the game's like, oh my god, what are you doing? Don't fight the dragon. You fight the dragon, and it the name of it, I won't remember the exact name, but it's essentially like lesser fireworm. And I was like, okay, so I probably just use a bunch of ice magic, and lo and behold, start press turning that fire dragon by using ice magic and just destroy it. Like it's
Yeah.
if you can it's not like the Matador fight. It's very much like a like if you know enough about RPGs and you know enough about weaknesses already, it's really not that big of a problem. Um, and I'm glad I did it because you get a warrior sword that was considerably stronger than the one I had already. So you get like a thing too that you can sell for quite a bit of money too. Um, so that was fun. That was a cool dungeon. I you head back to Grand Trad and essentially what you think is going to happen happens at the funeral. It happens to be a little bit more bombastic, and then I forgot I was playing an Atlas game, so out of nowhere a giant thing shows up in the sky, and it's like, "Yo, what's up? We're doing an election." I'm like, "Oh yeah, right. It's an Atlas game. Okay, we got to have something real weird happening here." Which is so far has been pretty entertaining. And then thankfully, after all of that, they just kind of turn you loose in Grand Trad. And it's like, all right, here's how to do side quests. Here's how to talk to people. You have a bunch of stuff you can to max your stats and grow your stats. And thankfully, I'd like to see this pulled into more Atlas stuff. It's very clear when you're going to be spending time doing something, to like use the parlance of Persona. It'll have like a little stopwatch next to it that has like an arrow of like this is gonna progress time, and usually Gallica, is that how you pronounce her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, hey man, don't forget this is gonna spend time. I was like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I gotta. You have a deadline like you usually do, so like I'm glad that the game is very explicit about, hey, this is going to progress time, which I think is really great. And I sort of like bombed around the city a little bit, talked to everybody, scooped up all the quests I could, and headed right into the dungeon. And I I'm on my I think third trip into the dungeon, because I know I'm I'm trying to not follow the thing that I want to do in every one of these games, which is I'm going to push and beat it in the first day, and I'll fight the boss with no MP, and everybody's not leveled up because I've been skipping fights, but I gotta finish the dungeon. Like, I don't I don't need to do that. I'm pushing as far as I can, finding one of those safe zones when I'm totally out of MP, and just leaving and getting a little bit further the next time. Um,
I think
but
that's very much the way to handle that first real dungeon,
mhm,
because it is tough. Like I think
yeah,
my first playthrough, I think I spent like 3 days or something, like
hmm,
attempting that. And it's they give you so like you don't think like the way the story heads towards the end, you start thinking like, man, I don't even have a single. They're not social links. What are they? They're followers. I don't have a single
right.
follower like maxed out. What's going on? And it gives you a ton of time. It doesn't seem like it's going to give you a ton of time, but it
Hmm.
does. Like, um,
And they're
because they
like
were,
all the
yeah,
stuff I'm running into in the city. It's like there's not like 15 side quests, and there aren't like 20 people to talk to. It's like no, there's like 3 or 4 side quests. I've already completed one. I'm working on one for more right now in the dungeon to like max out the not max out, but get the healer archetype to level 10. Um, and um, it I'm trying to use the knowledge I have from all of these other games to be like, the game says you have like 15 days or whatever. That's a lot of time. Like
yeah.
that's a whole lot of time in a game like this. So don't treat it like you're on your third playthrough of like, man, I had to spend 2 days in this dungeon. Like, unacceptable. Just I don't have to min max every RPG. It will be fine, even if I'm not gonna play it twice. I still haven't made that decision. Um, like it's okay if you just take your time in a dungeon. It's cool.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you know, spend some time on your kingly attributes,
hmm
your royal, whatever they are, royal virtues, right?
hmm
Um, and, and keep your eye open for when you can debate someone on the podium.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep an eye out for that stuff because I was I think Nimp mentioned it on TVGP a couple weeks ago about like I didn't find a bunch of those people, and I looked at the trophies on PS5. That one is super low. It's like 9% of people have that trophy for debating all the people. Um, so I thought that was something to keep an eye out for, just as like
Yeah. Well, you
what.
got the
Go ahead.
just to say you have the trophy aspect to it, and then you also have the aspect of when you win the debate, it improves two virtues.
Oh, okay. And it increases your standing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, most things will. I really enjoyed the standing, but that's all I'm going to say about that
Okay.
for now. I have a lot of more complicated thoughts on it, but we'd have to do a some sort of spoiler cast or something on
Right.
it.
I think early game, my focus on standing is mostly when you talk to the stone statue thing that
Oh
I
yeah,
don't want to. I don't really want to talk about it because it's kind of like a spoiler. But there's like a statue that will show you that will give you a currency in the game called mag, um, as a daily reward for your that sort of scales as your standing increases. So that's kind of my focus right now of like let's try. I need mag for like basically everything at the beginning of the game, and I'm sure it's one of those things in like 50 hours. They're like mag, pff, not hundreds of thousands of those. Don't worry about it. Um, but at the very beginning, it's sort of like that's a thing you need, and I was
yeah.
really surprised. The game too, like one of the first things it introduces you to is like, hey man, here's a dude that just trades you mag for money, and on days that have worse weather, that ratio he trades you for gets way higher. It's like, dang, okay. I feel like that's usually like an end game thing in RPGs of like have too much experience, sell it for money. Like one of those types of things. So
Yeah.
um, I I will be honest. I There are other games I wanted to play other than than Metaphor, and I kind of had to like force myself to pull myself back into Metaphor. But I'm really glad I did because I think it has finally clicked with me. Once they take the training wheels off and they sort of let you loose in the town, and you can like do that weird like skateboarding thing on your sword. I'm like, all
Oh
right,
yeah.
this is very goofy. I love it. Um, Once it really takes off the training wheels pretty early, I was like, oh, okay. Now I'm kind of feeling this a little bit more. And then when you get in that first real dungeon, and it's not afraid to put like enemies that are 5 levels or so above in the dungeon and be like, yeah, man, you just got to deal with them. Like you can try to surprise them and try to get the jump on them, but like these enemies are not going to pull any punches or anything. I think that clicked with me a lot. Of like, yeah, this is an Atlas RPG, and I really still do love Atlas games, and I do love these games when they just kind of take the training wheels off and just sort of they don't stop themselves from slapping you around a little bit. It's just sort of like this isn't the hardest RPG you're gonna play, but it's also not, it's not like a first time RPG where it's like, wow, you beat the dragon, good job, yay, in like 2 attacks or anything like that. So,
I I'll tell you, man, if you don't grind, which I kind of recommend not grinding till
mhm.
at least mid game, just so you can experience it, because I think it's pretty tightly designed in terms of what your level should be if you don't grind. Like
Yeah,
there are some incredibly difficult bosses that really require you to think about your loadouts.
mm,
Um,
that's exciting.
I I think you'll enjoy that aspect a lot.
Hmm.
But if you grind, then you'll destroy any of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's nice though when an RPG at least will let you do that. Where it's sort of like,
Yeah,
yeah, you can go ahead, man. You can do that. No big deal.
yeah.
So I appreciate that. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Metaphor. I'm gonna try and after we're done recording here, I'm gonna try and beat that dungeon and see if I can get the rest of the way through that and kind of let the game kind of continue to keep opening up here. Um, I enjoy it a lot, so I'm glad I'm glad I'm back in it. Um, all right, that's all the games I'm playing this month. Let's get into our gigantic list of RPGs that are releasing this month. We're going to start here with Keep Driving. Comes out on the PC on February 6th. They're selling this as an atmospheric management RPG about life on the road. I've had my eye on this for a little bit here. They announced it a little ways ago. It's kind of like a 2D side-scrolling RPG where you're driving your kind of beat-up car across the country and running into encounters along the way and kind of playing inventory Tetris with stuff and people that are in your car. It seems like it has at least on the surface, has some sort of minor roguelike elements where you're kind of doing multiple runs in a way that I'm not sure what the deal is with that quite yet. But it looks really cool. Seems like it's heavily vibes based, which I appreciate. And it seems like it's a really small team. So Keep Driving looks pretty cool.
And
Gonna
add
try.
that to our game club list.
Yeah, I really need to see once it comes out. I really need to see if it has controller support. I'm not sure if it does, but
Hmm.
yeah, Keep Driving looks really, really, really cool. So go check out a trailer of that if you're not watching the video version here. Seed of Pandora: Legend of the Gaia Tree comes out on PC on the 6th. Um, this is a really classic looking kind of top down 16-bit retro RPG that looks pretty solid here. I was doing a little bit of research into this. It seems like people really liked the demo of this that came out. So I not a lot here to say other than if you're looking for kind of like a cool maybe like Steam Deck 16-bit retro RPG with like all four of your party, like all three of your party members are following you on the world map behind you. You have that like line of 16-bit characters. So seems pretty neat. So that's Seed of Pandora: Legend of the Gaia Tree. Next up, we have a game called Astral Throne that comes out. Oops, I'm missing one. There it is. Astral Throne comes out on PC on February 7th. This is so they're sort of selling this as a combo between like a Fire Emblem, so it's like a grid-based strategy SRPG with a roguelike. So you're kind of doing the regular. Hold on. Every day I have recorded the last couple of days, it has been super quiet until I like really get into the episode, and then the people who live behind me start doing really loud yard work. So give me 2 seconds to close my window. There we go. That's better. Okay. So this is like a combo of like a roguelike where you're doing multiple runs, but you're playing that kind of grid-based SRPG Fire Emblem sort of thing. So that seems pretty neat. That's Astral Throne coming out PC on September 7th. Big release here: The Legend of Heroes: Trails Through Daybreak 2 comes out on PS4, PS5, Switch, and PC on the 14th. There are 2 demos out right now. There's a battle demo and a story demo. So if you want to really get a good handle on this, I am gonna be honest. I'm not sure why you get the demos of these other than instead of just maybe playing the first one. Although if you're interested in this, you've probably played all of the other 17 Trails games. So putting out a demo for this seems pretty strange. But I have not played any of these games as much as I really want to, almost from like a self-preservation sort of thing. And they all seem really cool. People really liked Trails Through Daybreak 1 seems like it was kind of a different take on a lot of what the series does really well. Kind of like a different approach to the the kind of Trails stuff. So seems cool. I'm sure the Nymph will pick it up at some point, and we'll talk about it on TVGP. So if you're interested in that, we'll probably talk about it over there as well. So that comes out on the 14th. Big release this month. Avowed comes out on series consoles and PC. It's Game Pass day and date on the 18th. I This is not me being a hater or anything. I really keep forgetting that this game is coming out, and I feel like this is, to me on the outside, kind of looks like the stereotypical kind of like first person like high fantasy RPG sort of thing, but everybody seems to be really pumped about this game. So there's got to be something to it, I guess.
So the things that have me excited about this game are I've heard it described as Obsidian's take on Might and Magic: Dark Messiah. Which
Okay, sure.
I don't know if you played that back in the day.
No, I always wanted to.
For the folks at home, either way, like that's a kind of fast-paced action RPG, where you get some really cool like fight abilities. Like it's less Bethesda, even though I guess the screens I'm looking at right now are fairly Bethesda-like. And think more like I want to invoke like a heretic or a quake or something like that. That's probably not appropriate to me though. But it is like more the abilities you're getting are like, oh, I have these two daggers and now I can do this lunge that takes me across half the screen or something.
So it's less of like an Elder Scrolls sort of thing where it's like a slower paced thing. It's a little bit more action based.
Yes, that is the impression I've been getting. Now, granted, I've not watched a lot of trailers, and watching this live stuff is making me doubt everything I've been told and saying. But you know, it's going to be on Game Pass, and I'm currently unsubscribed to that. But I think I'm gonna just subscribe to the console version since that's only $10 a month. And because I think they have something in February and March that I care about, and I don't remember the March thing. But
yeah, I feel like there's something else next month too. But
I,
like a lot of the coverage for this game has been, as someone who hasn't been paying super close attention to it, it's been a little bit frustrating because a lot of it is like, well, Obsidian's making an RPG, so like just go play it. It's like, yeah, but like what I love Obsidian stuff, don't get me wrong, but like what is this like something radically different, or like what are we doing here?
yeah.
So that's been a little bit frustrating.
You know, I love Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. I did not spend a lot of time in 2. The first one, I got pretty close to the end, and it got to a point where, like, the load times in the first game, no matter how powerful your machine is, get really bad towards the end. And maybe they eventually patched that to where it worked better, but it was, like, I was trying to figure something out and button up these last few quests, and it was literally like several minutes of load screen anytime I changed areas. So it killed the game for me. And I know 2 is supposed to be amazing and spectacular, and I played through the intro with a friend. I think that was 2. I get Pillars of Eternity 2 and what's Larian's Divinity.
Yeah, right.
1 and 2 mixed up a lot because they're very, especially Pillars 2 is a very similar game to those. But I don't. Will that world work out well in a first-person game? I have no idea. But if it invokes like some of the action sets and gameplay of Dark Messiah, like that's
that'll
be
cool.
An awesome game.
Yeah. So we'll see here pretty soon. That comes out on the 18th on Game Pass as well. Next up, we talk about RPGs and sort of some other games that we kind of enjoy here on the show. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage Tape 1 comes out, PS5, Series consoles, and PC on the 18th. This is we're talking about this on the show because it's Don't Nod's new game, and we like Life is Strange and a bunch of other Don't Nod stuff. Um, the second part of this game will now be released on April 15th. They were going to kind of come out back to back in February and March, and the second part got delayed a little bit. Um, and this game looks super cool. A bunch of teens doing Life is Strange sort of things, supernatural mayhaps and mischief. Like it's one of those things of like it's very much like the message that people were giving me about the last game. I'm giving for this one of like, if you like Don't Nod stuff, you probably like this because it seems like a Don't Nod game. So like, I'll kind of, I don't like the term walking simulator, but like it's very much a Don't Nod like story, modern kind of point and click adventure thing. Um, so picking it up either way. So hopefully it's good. So that's Lost Records Bloom and Rage Tape 1. Next up, big release for me personally, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii comes out PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series consoles, and PC on February 21st. This is the kind of new spin-off game. They did this before with Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, where it's a kind of like a smaller spin-off title after a big title. And this one looks like it's a spin-off after the events of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And it stars Majima in Hawaii, who seems to have lost his memory and now is off on mischief and mayhem with a tiny tiger friend, because why wouldn't he be? And also it has an entire thing where you get a pirate ship and staff it with a bunch of hooligans, and you have naval battles, because why wouldn't you? I just like all of this. It's like the most maximalist sort of video game you could potentially have, and I love these games so much, and I'm 100% into it day one. And the Yakuza games are really great, especially these side spin-off games, which kind of take the opportunity to get really bonkers. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I don't think I have it pre-ordered yet. I don't believe. I should probably do that pretty soon. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for that on the 21st. And last but certainly not least here, Monster Hunter Wilds comes out PS5, Series consoles, and PC on the 28th. I really can't get into these games. But man, every time they keep showing off a new game, I'm like, dang, these games look so good. But I know if I have a problem with something like Destiny, I will definitely have a problem with a game like this, where I think this game looks incredible, and it graphically just looks like a huge step up from even the Monster Hunter World, which I thought looked really incredible. So I know that they've been putting out a lot of trailers and teasers and stuff for a lot of the quality of life stuff that they've been trying to improve on the series, which I think is really, really cool. I'm not involved in any of this stuff enough to know, like, oh my god, they've totally done X, Y, and Z, and that changes the entire game. But I know that they've been doing a lot of promotional work to say, like, hey, we're trying to kind of continue modernizing this game. I think a lot of people think this is still like the PSP game, where it's like impossibly convoluted. It's like, get a party together and get things going. That's not really these games anymore, but I'm glad that they're continuing to kind of keep the improvements going here. So I'm sure we'll hear a lot about this, at least from Moon on TVGP as well, because he's our resident Monster Hunter fan. So check that out over there, probably the beginning of next month. But that's all the releases we have for this month. We got a lot of heavy hitters this month, so we thought 2024's deluge of cool RPGs was over, but nope. we're just gonna keep rolling here. That's the end of our episode, actually. We don't really have any news stories this month to speak of. So you can visit us at pickingupthepixels.com. Also over there on tvgp.tv. Also that's kind of like the main feed for everything. We're kind of collating everything over there. Everywhere to find and follow us, you can do on the right-hand side of the page. Don't forget that there is a video component to this as well. If you want to see our faces and some gameplay footage of these games, you head over to the YouTube channel. There's a link to it on tvgp.tv. Musim, where can we find you online?
You can find me at my link tree at linktr.ee/John Musim. That's JOHNMUSIM, and that will link you to all my relevant things.
Nice. You can find me at campsite.bio/Jansten, JANSTEN. If you're a player of Destiny 2, I'm, at least for the next, I think, week and a half here when this episode comes out, doing the Bungie Game to Give fundraiser again here for 2025. And that you can find links to that and all the incentives and stuff over at DestinyEmblemCollector.com. It'll have a banner on the top there. Trying to hit that $33,000 raised during this event total, so I can hit the $250,000 lifetime raise for the Bungie Foundation and all the charitable work that they do over there. DestinyEmblemCollector.com. I think that's it. Like we said, don't forget to check out Game Club over on TVGP. This month we're going to be playing Citizen Sleeper 2, and we play a bunch of cool games. Play cool games every month over there, so go check that out. And I think that's it. So we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.